Family to Family Incorporated is a non-profit organization operating on Camiguin Island in the southern Philippines. They are dedicated to providing medical and educational assistance to children in need. Tom and Diane Palmieri founded Family to Family in 1975 when they moved to the Philippines.
I'm from New York, and I first came over here in the Jesuits when I was 21. My first exposure to the Philippines. And later on I wanted to come back. So after working in Vietnam for a couple of stints, I ended up coming back over here.
I'm from Iowa. I grew up in Iowa and became a nurse in college and went to Vietnam because I wanted to give back some of what I received in getting an education, and that's where I met Tom. And after we both returned to the States, we still wanted to do more work in Asia, and so we went back to Vietnam again to work for another organization, and then directly from there came on here to the Philippines, and it was my first time to do any work here in the Philippines. Once we got here, we saw that there were a lot of needs, and we let people know about what we were doing here, especially family and friends, and some of them started sending us money to help us out to do the very simple things. We started out with a feeding program and took in foster babies, and then we decided we should really formally incorporate our organization so that we could get donations from people who were interested in having it be tax deductible and so on. So we got incorporated in the United States, and then later we got incorporated here in the Philippines as well.
Family to Family Incorporated takes a multifaceted approach to caring for the children of Camiguin and the surrounding area. Diane's patient visits are a key part of this approach. She makes the trip around the island to see handicapped children at least once a month. Diane's visits take her all around the island, around the coastal road, as well as up the sides of the volcanoes that make up the interior. She drives a World War II-era Jeep to ensure that she can reach patients anywhere. Diane conducts most of her visits in Visayan, as most of her patients do not speak English.
Basig magkuan sa dito mo sa katong asong ba? Oo.
Because the patients cannot afford even the most basic medical care, Family to Family must provide everything from food to bandages to medication. Diane encounters all types of cases, from the very simple to the extremely rare.
He was trapped in a field of grass that caught fire in the middle, and then he had the slippers on, so the bottoms of his feet didn't get burned with this whole area here. It's like second degree, I think. Yeah. So it's going to take a lot of work.
This little boy is mentally ill, deaf, and was born with closed tear ducts. There are no schools on Camiguin or in the surrounding area with resources sufficient to help a child like him. Children born with malformed limbs are quite common on Camiguin. Family to Family purchased a special prosthetic boot for this boy. Cases of cleft lip and cleft palate are very common in Camiguin. Family to Family helps with these cases and just recently paid for 4 children to undergo surgery to repair their lips and palates. This little girl was born with both hips dislocated and also has severe, uncontrollable clenching of her hands and feet. Surgery to correct her problems would be commonplace in the United States. However, her family cannot afford such an expensive medical procedure. Family to Family funds a physical therapy clinic for handicapped children. Without such physical therapy, some of these children would never have any hope of walking. This boy recently had surgery to correct for walking on his toes. He has had some complications and can still not walk properly. Family to Family has covered his medical expenses, and Diane checks up on him frequently. Diane often visits the hospital many times a week to visit her patients who may need more extreme care. Even though some of Family to Family's patients may have medical insurance, it is not enough to cover their full medical costs. This boy was severely burned on his torso and pelvic region. He has had problems with contractures, and therefore his medical treatment has taken longer than expected. One of the most horrific recent cases is this little boy, who fell into a pot of boiling water and suffered severe burns on his back. His father stands next to the bed, fanning the flies away from his burns, but looks distraught as Diane tells him that there is nothing to do but wait for the burns to heal. While many of these cases may seem hopeless, Family to Family is truly making a difference in these children's lives. Benjoy is one of the most recent success stories. This 3-year-old was born with a leg that had to be amputated at birth. Family to Family purchased a prosthesis for him, and he now smiles widely as he shows off his new running abilities. Family to Family's Handicapped Child Program is only one of its many efforts in the Philippines. Tom and Diane also care for the children of Camiguin by running a foster home out of their house.
And one of the most rewarding things, I think, for both of us has been specifically the foster care that we provided, because in the vast majority of the cases that we took in, they later were placed in adoptive homes, and we feel that, their future is pretty much assured. And the Department of Social Welfare here in the Philippines didn't, and still doesn't really in this northern Mindanao area, have adequate care situations for children, who, especially infants who are abandoned as newborns in the hospital. So we felt that this really, protected these kids and kept them healthy until the time that they could go to a permanent home.
The largest and perhaps most important facet of Family to Family's work on Camiguin is its work in education. And so the day at the Family to Family MAPA school begins. The students wake up at 4:30 each morning and then meet in the middle of campus at 5:30 for morning calisthenics and a meeting with their teachers. The students are responsible for cooking, cleaning, and farm work all before the day's classes begin.
The school at MAPA came about because we had already started helping students go to school here on the island in the public schools. We would give them school supplies, and we still do that. But then we were checking up on attendance, and we would discover that some of the students weren't coming that regularly. And as you found out what was wrong, you began to recognize that they needed far more than school supplies. They were in really dysfunctional homes. And they didn't have enough to eat, they didn't have any clothes to wear, it just wasn't enough to give them some school supplies and expect them to go to school. So we decided to start our own elementary level boarding school precisely for youngsters like that, students who had dropped out of school because they couldn't go anymore, or even had never even started school. So at our school they live there, and we feed them, take complete care of them, so that it's not a problem for them to come and go.
The school at MAPA is unique in terms of the students that it takes in are dropouts or young people who never got a chance to go to school at all. About 50% of the students come from broken homes, and that seems to be something that the result is the kids don't get around to going to school. They're the one parent that's trying to raise them, or grandparents have so many other problems with income, looking for food and things like that, that they can't kind of encourage these kids to stay in school. So it's different in terms of that, and then it's also different because the teachers live with the students, and the students and the teachers develop rather close relationships, and the teachers become almost like surrogate parents or older brothers and sisters, and provide, in a lot of cases, the only emotional nurturing that these kids have ever had. We also made it very specifically in an area similar to the area where most of our students come from, up in the hilly area, in order to try to teach them to farm, specifically to grow vegetables, because the land in many parts of the Philippines is underused, and many places import vegetables from other regions when they could be very well growing them themselves. So we're trying to encourage the students to learn how to be more self-sufficient, and we don't have any cooks, we don't have any laundry women, we don't have any janitors. The students learn how to do everything. It's sort of like a scouting camp, and it's a preparation for life. I mean, some of these young people will be starting their own families in the not too distant future, and we try to prepare them in every way for their future life.
Now then, after our own school was going for some time, we started to have graduates from it, and they wanted to go to high school, and many of them could not afford to do that. So we have assisted a lot of our own graduates to go on and do further schooling.
The MAPA school houses a student body of about 120 and a staff of 12. The students are taught 5 subjects: English, mathematics, science and health, Makabayan or social studies, and Filipino. Students range in age from age 9 to over age 20. There are also about 20 deaf students at the school who are taught American Sign Language. In addition to regular classes, teachers also prepare special events for students, such as Nutrition Month in July. There are also vocational education classes for the older students. Lastly, but perhaps most importantly, each living quarters has 1 or 2 teachers and many students of all ages. Such an atmosphere helps to create a unique sense of family, which affects students and teachers alike. It is this sense of family that makes the family-to-family MAPA School and Farm such a unique place. The experience affects both teachers and students.
My experience in MAPA affected me that much because it made me an independent person and more responsible.
If we talk about experiences in this school, maybe the word that I could put in my head is that it makes me a total person per se. It develops me a lot personally, because first and foremost, of course, it's more on service for the students. It's more on, as a teacher, you're not only to think of what the students learn from you, but also what you can put in each of them, or what you can make them change and develop also. So maybe that's the most important thing that I could say affects their lives as a person.
The MAPA school gives its students a chance to succeed, even when things may have seemed hopeless. The island of Camiguin is world-renowned for its natural beauty. What often slips beneath the surface is the extreme poverty that affects the island's citizens. Tom and Diane Palmieri have shown that selflessness and small acts of kindness can go a long way in helping the poorest of the world's poor.
Alam mo ang ganda ng pagkakataon, cute pa. Bawat mong tingin, pero ito napansin. Pagbigyan pag-ibig natin mahalin. Di ko alam hanggang kailan tayo, di ko mabago ang ibig ng mundo, pero sama ka sa aking biyahe. Ay lamang ng araw na ito, ang buhay ay sinasakyan lang yan. Di ko alam ang tungo kung saan, pero sama ka sa aking biyahe. Iaalay ko ang puso mo. Ang iba'y nilaro lamang, away-away ko rin selos lang. Ang iba'y nagsisisi, sabi, wag na lang pasukan. Di ko alam hanggang kailan tayo, di ko mabago ang ikot ng mundo, pero sama ka sa aking biyahe. Ang araw na ito, ang buhay ay sinasakyan lang yan. Di ko alam ang tungo kung saan, pero sama ka sa aking biyahe. Iaalay ko ang